Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We've been talking about for a while now as far as the politics of agitation is concerned. Of course, the trend unfortunately has continued. We've seen the polarization in society. We've also seen a lot of politics of agitation that is now coming primarily from the PTI. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about dragging institutions in politics, which is now unfortunately has now been going on for a while, and its own ramifications, its own effects, not only domestically but also on the international front. Also, we've had reports and media has reported as far as the ECP report of Daska elections is concerned. We'll be talking a little bit about that. And that's effects overall on politics, the PTI's conduct in those elections, all of those things, and their whole effect on their now call for elections, which is now, of course, something that PTI stands for and has been ever since the vote of no confidence happened. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Saeed Minhas, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Ali Asjad Malli, who's leader PTI. We'll also have with us Saida Nausheen Iftikhar, who's an M&A with PMLN. Thank you for joining us. And Sarwar Bari, who's ex-president FAFN. Thank you for being with us. Ji, Minhas sahab, like I said, as far as the overall situation is concerned, we have now been, talking about this for a while. As far as the politics of agitation is concerned, certainly that isn't new now. That's been happening for a while. The polarization in society that is now increased and is increasing day by day. Also, in addition to that, now dragging institutions that we've seen, whether it's the establishment, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's, we've had now the Election Commission also. That is now, every time a decision comes that's against somehow, it's made controversial. The institution itself is made controversial, and then tools of social media are used to actually to further that objective, and then that picks up, and overall the effect of that, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's certainly creating more chaos than any order because all these things were already there. The only ingredient which has increased in the recent years is the social media. That is serving as adding fuel to the fire sort of situation, because dragging of institutions is not new. Yes, Imran is doing it now, but not very far behind. If we look at 2-3 months back, PMLN was doing the same thing. And if we go back a little bit, then Mia Sahib was doing that fiery speech he made over the video link, everybody knows. And before that, everything. And as you said, that the problem is the credibility of the political institution itself, and that is at stake now. That is what the more problematic area for me, because yes, all these institutions are going to stay there. The only one institution which is unstable, which has its own problems within problems, and which has lots of infighting going on, and they are clamoring to get on the positive side of all the institutions by blackmailing them. And this is something which is dangerous, because you are trying to blackmail the institutions using the either the public force or the social media force, to blackmail them using different tactics. Imran Khan is using verbosity. Before that, we saw even the video images were also coming out and all those things. So these things are not very good for a democratic society where we believe that democracy is growing, but it's not growing. Actually, it's creating more fissures and more polarization in the society, and the temperatures are rising day by day. And this is, nobody is trying to cool them down, unfortunately.
Let me go to Ali Asjad Malli. Ji, Ali, overall, in terms of this kind of polarization that is now, unfortunately, a part of our society at this time, and then involving institutions, why has it become, we saw what happened as far as the vote of no confidence is concerned with the courts, the moment that happened, suddenly the Supreme Court became controversial. When decisions come in your favor, particularly when we talk about the PTI, institutions cease to be as controversial? Why has that trend grown, particularly with regard to your political party?
Well, regarding the vote of no confidence, the court's behavior, actually, I wouldn't say the decision, the court's behavior was very dubious. And that's why I guess that not only our party, but the entire social fabric thought that something was not right. And that's why their decision also became controversial. The Chief Justice, the Honorable Chief Justice came and sat at 12 midnight. The Islamabad High Court the Justice was there as well in his court, and it's never happened before in the history of Pakistan. What was going on? The police prisoner vans were being shown on social media. So it raised a lot of questions. And every action has a reaction. So why are we so, in fact, what would be the correct word? Why are we so curious as to our PTI's response? What happened to PTI, I don't think we've seen it happen in the recent past in Pakistan. Of course, there have been martial laws before, but the way and what went about in that 1 week in the Sindh House and the court and then the people who were chosen to govern on 22 crore people eventually.
But Ani, as far as Sindh House is concerned, none of your people, those defecting from your political party, ended up voting. That's also a reality. That's also true, right?
Didn't end up what? Voting?
They didn't end up voting against,
Yes.
the Prime Minister of that time.
Because we boycotted that process. I don't know if it was the correct decision or not, but we boycotted. The world knew what happened in the Sindh House.
Do you think that's correct? Do you think that, okay, since you're talking about boycotting, is it also, in your opinion, a correct decision at this time to stay out of the assemblies?
Now, yeah, it's a good question, but and it doesn't have a simple answer. For the sake of simplicity or answering you, I'll have to go with what Mr. Khan has said again and again, that we cannot accept these thugs and these dacoits as our rulers.
But does it matter? Is it mattering at all that you are not accepting them, or you are saying they're not legitimate? Is it not, is that preventing them from passing legislation? Is that preventing them from going ahead?
Time will tell if this was the correct decision.
Okay,
right now, this is what we stand for.
Okay,
and I
fair
think
enough. Let me come back to you. I'll go to Saida Nosheen Iftikhar. Nosheen, as far as this agitation is concerned, polarization is concerned, all of that is there, and I want to talk more about that, but particularly about the reports in media as far as the Daska election is concerned, and what the ECP has said, also dismissal of their own people who they say, the bipole rigging, all of that. What are your comments on that?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, MAHRUKH, for inviting me today. Yes, you're right. I'm very grateful to ECP for the issuance of the detailed report, which has proved that how PTI executed and planned massive rigging, and they tried to sabotage by-election Daska in February, and this is the result, and this is the outcome, a positive outcome, which I demanded. So Alhamdulillah, it's fair enough that what the report has proven, that how PTI has planned this rigging, and it was a massive rigging. And secondly, I demand for the incompetence of all the PTI leaders and supporters who were involved in this conspiracy. That day, they were deprived of their right to cast a vote with their own choice. They were stopped. There were 2 murders. and people had to go a lot of threat and harassment from the PTI Prime Minister and the Chief Minister himself. They were both were involved, and today I'm really happy that ECP has chosen and they have become one of the institute where they planned for this when I demanded the re-election. And on all the evidence I collected, I went to ECP and I requested for the re-election. So they supported the right cause. And today Pakistan shall be very proud of our departments, our institutions who stand with the right. So I'm really grateful to them. And secondly, I demand from my government today that if they were deprived from the right of casting votes, and in a democracy, in our constitution, a Pakistani has a right to cast a vote with his own choice, with his own or her own will. So I demand incompetence for all the people who were involved in this rigging, all the officers who were involved.
Right. Let me come back to you. Ji, Manasab, you heard what Ali said, and then Nausheen also, as far as the Daska election is concerned.
You see, this is the level of polarization that any national institution which is giving anything in favor of you, you're praising that. Anything which comes against you, you are not accepting it. So this is not the norms of democracy. Sorry to say, I'll disagree with Mali Sahab also, that PTI stands for justice. PTI claims to stand for constitution. But whatever they have done in the past 3-4 months is none of that is corroborating with what they have been saying or claiming to be. So this is unfortunate, because we expect, if Imran Khan holds himself above all these people morally, legally, constitutionally, then he should have upheld the constitution as well, because no matter who they are, because democracy does not define that who is who. Democracy defines the number of votes received.
Interestingly, I just want your opinion on this. We've also had, I mean, not exactly the same scenario, but we've also had vote of confidence in other parts of the world recently.
In Pakistan also.
In Pakistan,
you remember Benazir had to face that, Nawaz Sharif had to face that. So it's not something unusual. This is, they are saying that something first time has ever happened. It has not happened. This is the way Pakistani politics works. And they should understand, many of the PTI people, their friends, they are new to the parliamentary structures. They might be not new to the politics. They might belong to the families of politicians, but then they are new to governing a country of this magnitude with these kind of problems, and they have, unfortunately, they should understand that they failed to deliver when it comes to governance, first of all. Second thing, that they failed to stand by the constitution when the time came to stand by the constitution.
But Minhasab, as far as failure to govern is concerned, the only person who should be allowed to decide that is the electorate. Principally, that is also a fact.
Yeah, but then again, your constitution says that when a government is removed constitutionally through a vote of no confidence or confidence.
That's also constitutional.
That's constitution, that they are running a government legitimately. They have not been overthrown by the courts. They have gone to the court. Court has not overthrown them. So about the Sindh House issue, you rightly said that they did not cast the vote. Now it comes back to, and the history will tell, yes, Mali Sahab is right, that history will tell whether Khan Sahab's position to stay out, because Khan Sahab also has a history of staying out. If you remember, throughout those dharna days, he was not going to the parliament, despite being the parliament committee or members, but they were not going there. So this is not something which is called democracy. You do not fight the legal fight on the roads,
but
when you have the right to stand up.
So what happens is that if they agree with this, if they agree, like you said, if they agree with the verdict or they agree with the decision, if it's the courts or if it's the election commission, any institution, then they agree and they say that, oh great, you know, they all hail to the institution. Ali, I want your opinion on this. And then if it doesn't happen, you know, unfortunately it doesn't go your way, you refuse to, you know, you cast, you know, aspirations on the institution itself, you call them names. I think I'm saying it in a very basic way. It's much more than that. It's more dirty, it's more aggressive, it's more, you know, it's all over social media, and that unfortunately is what's happening now. Another case that's pending at this time that I'm sure you're aware of and everyone knows is the foreign funding case. In that case, I mean, we don't know, and at this point, of course, it's all conjecture, or it's all, guesswork when I say that, what if it goes against you? I mean, will you accept it? Will Imran Khan accept it, or will he say that it's because the election commission, there's something wrong with the election commission, they're not, it's controversial, they've acted on the behest of another institution, all of those things, or will you accept that verdict?
Okay, now there are three very long questions. First, lady talked about the decision of the election commission in the by-election. I'll answer that. But before that, gentleman, when he said that this is not the first time it has happened, it happened to Bedi and it happened to me and Nawaz Sharif. Those are two wrongs don't make a right. And also it said they didn't, the people who were bought in the Sindh house didn't cast their votes. For God's sake, let's talk common sense here. They didn't need to cast votes because we had boycotted. If they had been needed to cast their votes, what would have happened? Of course, Imran Khan would have been ousted. So let's call a spade and move on. I think we're all reasonable people. When something unconstitutional took place in Sindh House, they were bought. They had contested elections on PTI tickets, and they were
but
ready
Ali,
to.
None of this is proven. I mean, a lot of stones that have been cast in that direction, none of those have been proven. You can't say today. I mean, a lot of the MNAs, at least one or two, in this case, who your party has alleged, and social media started a campaign against them, saying that they have taken 12 crores, and a list I think that everybody saw had gone out saying that they have taken 12 crores or 10 crores. Now that they've given out their assets, have assets in billions of rupees, which they have had for generations. So I doubt that they were taking 12 crores rupees from anyone at any time to vote wherever, Now
tell me, give me an answer first. The whole of Pakistan is watching you. Can Raja Riaz be a legitimate opposition leader of Pakistan?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you please repeat that?
Can Raja Riaz be a legitimate opposition leader of Pakistan?
You have
Now
left.
your career is online.
You have left the field completely bare. Ali, you have left the field completely bare. You are allowing the PDM and the PMLN government a carte blanche to do whatever they like in the assembly, and then you are blaming them by saying, why are you doing it? Be in the assembly, be an effective opposition. That is the argument, right?
It's a very simple question. This will test your gut, because you serve a national TV, which is under the government rule. But this will test you: is Raja Riaz a legitimate opposition leader?
Well, in a democratic, Mali Saab, in a democratic setup.
MAHRUKH, can you please answer? MAHRUKH, can you please answer my question?
I think in the kind of scenario there is, who else would be a legitimate opposition leader?
Again, okay.
I will ask you to answer it.
I won't test you again. Okay, the next question was the next thing which my colleague from Daska mentioned about the election commission. The election commission is biased. We have asked the resignation from the chief election commissioner. We feel that he's a puppet and he acts on behest of the orders given by Maryam Nawaz. This is what happened in the by-election Daska. My colleague.
But he has been appointed by your government. He was appointed by Khan Saab.
Appointed by PTI government itself.
And Khan Saab now says that he's a mistake. No, I'm going to let Nausheen answer this one.
You guys can do the program, I can leave. If every time I'm going to speak,
please continue. We would like to hear you. I'm sorry, please don't get offended at the questions. You are from PTI, so we can only ask you.
Sure. So let me answer. When all of you speak, do I interrupt? I don't.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Let me finish. Okay. The election commission is biased. I'm ready to give you proofs. In your program, I challenge the Chief Election Commissioner to come live on TV with his documents. I'll bring my documents live in front of 22 crore people and let the world decide if he's biased or not. If the people find I'm wrong, I will leave politics. The voting now, the gentlemen are very esteemed journalists here. Now, can you please explain to me the Karachi election, which took place about a week ago or 3 days or a week ago? The casting percentage over there was 8%. How much? 8%. And it was accepted by the Election Commission of Pakistan. And they did not say that the people were not allowed to cast their votes, even though there were murders and fighting all day. In Urdu, they were saying it was a khuni election in all over media. In Daska, the casting percentage was 46%. 46%. That is the second highest voting percentage of any by-election in the history of Pakistan. And the Chief Election Commissioner said that the people of Daska were not allowed to cast their votes. So angels came and they casted their votes there. 46%, the second highest voting percentage in the history of Pakistan. So it was biased, it was malified, and my colleague from Daska, her first request was for 23 polling stations where she wanted a re-election. But later on, when they found out, when Mr. Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister, tweeted that I request my candidate to accept that and to go for re-election in 23 union councils, polling stations, sorry. As soon as this came out, Maryam Nawaz Sahiba tweeted, no. Now we don't want 23 polling stations. Now we want the entire constituency. And what Maryam Nawaz Sahiba was tweeting, the same results were coming out from Election Commission of Pakistan.
Okay.
So I rest my case.
Now, will you allow me to ask Nausheen? I'll let Nausheen answer this. Ji, Nausheen.
Thank you, Mahrukh. Acha, Mahrukh, I guess this is like being a Pakistani. This should be our first priority, to respect the constitution and all institutions of Pakistan, which PTI is like out of practice. Imran Khan has been in practice of alleging and naming people and parties. So we know how he served in last 4 previous years with the incompetence and misgovernance. And my colleague, Mr. Ali Ashad Malli, if the institutions are supporting you, you like always used to drag them. If they are supporting you, so they are right. And if they are supporting and ask for the other parties, and if the result comes against you, then they are biased. So this is what you mean to say. But let me tell you one thing, Mahrukh. The day we were in ECP and we both parties were there, and Mr. Ali Ashad Malli was demanded to bring Form 45 from the constituency, which were not available there. Not his lawyer brought them, and he asked for 1 week time to bring them, to present those Form 45, which I had to come back and collect the forms, and I went back to the ECP and I submitted them. So I worked on all the evidences. This report is on all the evidences which were submitted by me and my party that day. So he should respect the decision, and he should take this decision instead of blaming and alleging institutions would not help. Everyone demands for a transparent election, free and fair election. And the person educated like Mr. Ali Ashad Malli, if he comes up with this narrative or this stance, this is really shameful. This is really shameful.
Right. Let me come back to you. Ji, Minhasab, overall, in terms of even if we leave the Daska election on the side, overall, whenever the next elections happen, this polarization, in terms of what's happening, in terms of our vision of the the next year, the year after that, whenever the next general election in this country will be held, the same political parties will participate the way that it looks like. What do you expect in this kind of scenario, in this kind of polarization, in this kind of, even between two people, like we've seen Ali Asjad Mali Saab and, Saida Norseen Iftikhar, the disagreement at this time, the report of the Election Commission, overall Daska scenario. If you look at if you implement that scenario on the next general election, it doesn't look, it looks quite bleak. As what kind of a next election are we looking at, the general election?
It looks more not bleak, but I would say horrible, because the scenario on which both the political parties and especially unfortunately governance is adding fuel to this. Imran Khan, whatever he did or what he couldn't do, then this government is adding more fuel to the fire by putting more price hike and then rising of this petrol prices and gas prices and electricity prices.
But they say they don't have a choice in terms of what the economy is, where it is at this time. I don't think that, of course, it's affecting their vote bank, and they have always said that, of course, these are very difficult decisions for them to take.
But then they are giving enough fodder for a man who is already on the streets and who knows only one way of politics, and that is the politics of mobilizing the people because of his fame. Maybe not because of his political ideology, maybe because of his fame. But then the involvement and engagement of all these institutions, that is more horrible. That is where the situation is becoming very tricky, because in any of the past election, polarization in the society was already there. We have seen when Benazir came back during the Ziaul Haq days, polarization was there, but then not at that level.
But you will be able to correct me if, was it at this level again, because people say that the 90s were quite bad, but were they as bad as?
Not as bad, honestly, because we have seen, I have covered extensively 90s election all across Punjab, Sindh and Balochistan, and we have not seen the kind of polarization which we are seeing now, because this polarization unfortunately is resting on 2-3 things. One thing is the inflation, which is killing the people already. Second thing is the political
point scoring
from all the political parties. Third thing, which is adding fuel, is for the first time in the history of Pakistan, all the drawing room activists are part of this entire show. So they are adding more fire in other place, like what aspirations they are throwing on the institutions is not being checked right now.
Because the former, the one ingredient that wasn't prevalent at that time is the social media.
Social media, social media is adding more, and that is creating that activists at home who have not gone out in a single rally, who have not organized a political party, who have not been part of the members, who will never go, might be, they might not even vote, but they are the one who are instigating, and then the external factors are Pakistanis who are living abroad. They believe in the narrative which Imran Khan has built around them, and unfortunately this government has failed to counter that narrative. Rather, they are giving more and more fodder to all those people, and what Imran is saying is getting more buy-in by all these actors.
I'll let Nosheen answer that, but first I'll go to Ali Asjad Mali Saab. Ji, Mali Saab, your opinion generally speaking on, even if we leave the Daska election aside, in terms of the PTI as a political party, one of the criticisms that was earlier made as far as PTI was concerned when they came into government was that there seemed to be a lack of plan. Some of the statements that Imran Khan himself as Prime Minister made were, that they had underestimated how bad the situation was, and therefore they were not prepared. The kind of scenario that we are seeing at this time as far as the economy is concerned, you are asking for elections, that is a demand, but even if elections do happen, any political party that comes in at this time, do you think that they are equipped enough, particularly the PTI also, to handle the crisis any differently or at all that there is at this time?
Maruk, it's a great question actually, and I appreciate you that you're asking this question. The thing is that we were blamed for being incompetent, and by the grace of Allah, history has proven that we were the competent ones, and the people who were badgering us for incompetency when they were given the chance, illegally they were given the chance. You know what has happened. Everything has come down badly. Pakistan is facing a blackout, actually, if that's not too harsh a word. We did well. We could have done better, I agree with you. Were we prepared? Our preparation could have been better, but under the circumstances, the COVID and the Ukraine war and Afghanistan, everything, I think we did quite well, actually. And when the journalists and the people and the historians will write, in history, when they will say that Pakistan had started growing at 6%, our exports were at its highest, our remittances were the highest in the history. We were growing at 6%. I think we were doing well. And we weren't facing this kind of situation when we were in power. So the great cherry blossom has definitely been exposed, badly exposed, that if there was some kind of a miracle cure in Pakistan, that he would come and make everything right. That didn't happen. Pakistan is a nosedive right now, and
as far as the agreement with the IMF is concerned, it was your party that signed it. You agree with that, right?
We were handling IMF. We were giving SAS programs, health cards. We were building dams. We were building motorways. We were doing many things despite IMF. And what about the FATF? We worked on FATF emphatically. We worked very hard. Hamad Azhar did a great job with our other team, with Asad Umar, and eventually now, hopefully, we'll be out of it. And now the next question was that will we be able to bring Pakistan out of this nosedive again? Inshallah, God willing. Our intentions are clear and they're sound. We are trying to create a Riyasat-e-Medina state like Medina. We can't create a state of Medina, but we are trying to follow that example. And inshallah, given another chance, we will bring Pakistan back from the brink of destruction, inshallah.
Right. Nausheen, as far as the budget is concerned, we've also had, additional taxes being imposed again today. Of course, that is going to have an effect on the masses. We are also looking at by-polls now. How do you think it's going to translate for the results in those by-polls in particular?
See, Mahrukh, there is no doubt that Pakistan is going through a very worst economic scenario these days. And this is indeed being brought to Pakistan from the PTI, which they were unable to govern Pakistan, and because to just please America, they halted the CPAC. They were failed to enter in the contract with IMF. They brought Pakistan and they left Pakistan in the energy crisis. So Prime Minister and the team, our ministers, they are trying really hard to bring Pakistan back to the position. See, I know people are suffering, masses are suffering, but still we are hoping that Pakistan would come up from this crisis, inshallah, very soon. As other countries, they have decided to support us, and we are looking forward, inshallah, in coming 2 or 3 months, we will cover up, inshallah.
Right, Nausheen, I'll just come back to you. Ji, Minhasab, overall, again, the by-polls, how are you looking at them now?
I mean, what a pity that a country of 220 million with 3 major political parties ready to cut each other's throat at any given time with the help of certainly one of the institutions, one of the major institutions, everybody knows. But none of them has an economic plan for Pakistan. None of them have an economic team for Pakistan. Whatever they are claiming, they all go back to the same old faces. Hafiz Sheikh, everybody knows. Tareen, everybody knows. Come on. I mean, we don't have these 2, 3 faces more than that. One thing. Second thing is that these elections, next elections, are all about, because if these things continue to pile up, all these inflation is going to play a big role, plus the political polarization is going to play a big role, plus the third factor is the social media branding of the major institutions who consider or claim themselves to be the custodians of ideological and geographical boundaries of Pakistan. They are being embroiled into this, and that is very dangerous, because if there is a chaos within that institution, then it will be a chaos, never ending chaos, which might lead towards that conspiracy theories which are now flying around all over the world, that is it about denuclearization of Pakistan, is it about bankruptcy of Pakistan, God forbid these kind of things happen. But then none of these political parties, and this is a question mark for even Imran Khan, that if he wants things his way, when he comes back to power, others will want the things their way. So that means this cycle is not going to end anywhere. When Imran was calling for a national dialogue, no political party was coming to the table. When this prime minister is calling for a national dialogue, Imran is not going there.
Right.
So then where is the solution then? And then all the mediators who
You
can
think they
become
can be made
mediators,
to sit? Yes.
yeah, all the mediators are being questioned by all the parties at any given point in time. Mariam was saying same thing about these same institutions just 3 months back. And now Imran Khan has taken that role of Mariam, and Mariam has taken Imran Khan's role of defending the inflation. So this is unfortunate, but nothing is rosy for the days to come. And elections are going to be very bloody this time, because the temperatures are very high. And the institutions, the mediators are compromised. This is more serious.
Let me come back to you with us, Sarwar Bari, who is ex-president Fafin. Bari sab, we've been talking about polarization. We've also been talking about overall. I hope you heard what Minhaj Saab is saying with regard to whenever the next elections are held, but also particularly in terms of the by-polls now. How do you look at them, considering that we are looking at inflation the way that it is? We've also seen some taxes going up today. How do they look, in your opinion, in terms of the party positions?
Well, I think I will not comment on party position, because this is too early and we have not done any opinion poll. But it appears to me from different constituencies where we have some staff, it's not based on any scientific study, but in certain areas, PTI seems to be more popular than others. But in other constituencies, the PDM candidates have, like in Rawalpindi constituency, it appears to us from our discussions with people in the area that PMLN is perhaps leading, maybe leading in Pindi constituency. But generally speaking, I think the price hike is going to have a major impact on voting behavior of people. But also there are rural constituencies, there are urban constituencies, and in rural constituency, factional leaders play a very leading role, more than political parties. It's primarily local factional leaders who play a significant role in mobilizing voters. So we have come to know, like from Khushab by constituency, that the state officials are helping to resolve disputes between different factions by using state officials. So these are preliminary discussions with people living in the constituencies. But I think as far as freeness of elections is concerned, it appears to me that the vote buying is going to take place at a massive level. Vote transfers have also been pointed out by some communities, that their votes have been split or sent to another constituency. So at this stage, we have a mixed information, but I hope in the next week things will get more clear.
Right, okay. Nausheen, your quick comments overall as far as the situation is concerned in terms of how you expect it to go, not only the bypolls but overall the challenges that the government faces at this time.
See, MAHRUKH, things are improving as China has shown great trust in Shahbaz Sharif, and that is why we have received $2.5 billion at a very low interest rate from China today.
Right.
And with that, investors are resuming their investments in Pakistan, including in energy sectors, special economic zones to be set up in for manufacturing and infrastructure, investment in roads, network along with the fiber optic line from China to Pakistan as well. And Gwadar post is the focus of our government. So Shahbaz Sharif is giving full attention to the development of Gwadar and the port to strengthen the relationship with China and also giving boost to our economy. So we are hoping that things will lead to, inshallah, a comeback, a very positive comeback, and we will, inshallah, bring Pakistan on its feet back very soon, inshallah.
Right, thank you. Ji Minhas Sahib, your comments before we close overall.
Yeah, it looks like the price hike and inflation is the key issue, but then the temperatures are very high, and my concern again is that who is going to bring all these temperatures down when the mediators are compromised. So this is a very tricky situation, and things will change. It's not, Imran Khan may be popular at this point in time, but you never know. As Bari Sahib rightly said, that when it comes to Pakistani elections, like despite all the problem, Zardari never lost Sindh. There are other factors involved in this. Imran's popularity was very high, rest of the country, but he could not make a dent in the rural Sindh. Urban Sindh, yes, he managed to get something, but this time situation has changed. MQM is there. South Punjab politics is totally different. It's a clan based, it's a local influencers. Central Punjab has its own dynamics. Balochistan is a totally different ball game altogether.
And
it's
also
out of
in
Pakistan.
terms of mobilizing their vote bank, that's always been an issue as far as the PTI is concerned.
Exactly, because PTI, remember, PTI don't have the party structure, and they were exposed badly in this last long march.
Right.
Badly.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us, Saeed Minhas Sahib, Ali Asjad Malhi, Saida Nausheen Iftikhar. Thank you for joining us. Sarwar Bari, thank you for being with us. As far as the polarization in society is concerned, certainly there's no doubt that we are seeing an increase in that kind of polarization that is, increasing day by day. There is concern all around, and as far as how that there can be a clamp down on that kind of polarization, if we can actually have, again, like Minhas Sahib said, a cooling down, so to speak. Again, the offers of a charter by the Prime Minister don't seem to have made any headway with Imran Khan Sahib, particularly as far as them being the main opposition is concerned. One hopes that the politicians can actually look at the overall climate, environment and the future of the country and come to some kind of a working relationship again, as an opposition, as a government, with PTI perhaps coming back to the assemblies and playing their role as an effective opposition. Thank you so much for joining us today.